Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Odyssey. I'm your host, Tejneet Selhi, and this is the show where we sit down with founders who have actually done the hard yards so you don't have to learn every single lesson the painful way. Before we dive into today's episode, a quick shout out to our sponsor, AI Efficacy, who help their customers gain efficiencies and grow their businesses through smart and personalized workflows. Head to AI-efficacy.com. That's EFFICACY.com. Now, on to today's guest. Today's guest is someone who's made some very bold moves, and I promise you, everyone, this is going to be a really interesting conversation. She's pivoted out of corporate enterprise into building a holdings company, which is so cool, launching multiple businesses, and then doubling back to solve on the most overlooked problems in small businesses, which is the MarTech mess, as it has been described. She's also the founder of DIGITALXMEDIA, a MarTech strategy and operations consultancy that helps small businesses cut through the noise, get clear on their tools, and actually build systems that work. Please welcome Sanarr McLaughlin. Lovely to have you with you, Sanarr.
Thank you so much. That was an excellent intro. It definitely, I love hearing how others see the things that I'm working on and things that I'm doing. And that was lovely. Exactly how I operate.
I'm so pleased because we do try hard to kind of do the research ahead of time. So I'm glad that it's hit the mark. So that's awesome. But you know what? I want to dive into your origin and particularly I'd love to know, because obviously you were in corporate.
Yes.
And then so I'd love to maybe hear a little bit about your corporate journey and then the actual decision, or what made you make the decision to say, hey, you know what? I need to start DIGITALXMEDIA.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're like my origin. It's my origin, like my villain origin story. And how I got into this, because like every little girl who dreams of being chief marketing officer of a Fortune 500 company when they're in high school, right? I did marketing through high school, college, started out on the agency side, working with, huge enterprise companies and really getting first-hand view of exactly how these big corporations worked. And I moved from agency to working on brand side in the travel industry. And I loved it. I loved being a part of a huge organization, having the resources that were accessible to you when you're working with a big enterprise company. Heavy is the head that wears the crown when you're on the brand side. I love that. But I realized that the passion that I had that had been driving me to work in marketing, work with a large company was more about doing things, making changes, launching things, building tools, being on, the edge of new things and data and how we leverage that, and just kind of really making a difference, right? Being able to create things. And you don't have as much of that flexibility when you're working in a large organization. We have these this saying that it's hard to turn a big ship turn slowly. I'm a fire sign too, right? I'm an Aries, and I like to do things quick, fast, make decisions, like be on it. And
I'm Sagittarius, so I feel you're feeding off your energy, and I feel exactly the same way.
Yes. And I just started to get frustrated in corporate about not being able to move things forward quickly, right? And not being able to make fast decisions, or just kind of be like, hey, there's an opportunity. Let's do it and start building it and start creating. So I went back into working in agency, and then I started consulting, and I learned a lot in my agency, from my corporate and my agency life. What I learned is that every single business struggles with the same thing, right?
Okay.
It's often seen as an unproductive or an incapable staff, right? They don't have the resources or the tools to do what they need to do. And that's why things are slow, or things aren't working the way they're supposed to, or there are errors or stuff like that. And so when I first decided to launch Digital X Media, I was like, we're going to fix that, right? We're going to create a pool of marketing experts like myself who can go into companies, go into brands, go into agencies, and really can help them streamline the way they work, execute well. They have all the knowledge of what the processes and the structure should be like. And I was like, I'm going to fix it. What happens is when a company does not have the right framework, strategy, and then tools, tech stack, right? That they're using. They don't have the right integrations. They don't have the right governance. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
how knowledgeable, right? The person is, doesn't matter how capable. You're going to get the same issues occurring over. You're going to get the same hurdles, the same struggles, the same slowdown, the same inaccuracies. So I
Mm-hmm.
pivoted Digital X Media from providing marketing freelance execution services to
Yes.
providing the MarTech architecture, strategy, and marketing operations processes that we do today,
Yes.
right? Because
Amazing.
that's my decades of experience have taught me the foundation, the structure, the strategy that has to be well thought out and laid well in order for everything to work the way that it should. And especially when you're dealing with small businesses, that's my passion because they're in a place where they're growing, they're scaling, and they're moving fast, right? There's a smaller ship moving through the waves,
Mhm.
and they're doing things quickly without necessarily documentation, setting up integrations. It leads to redundant tools. It leads to miss gaps in things that should be done. And I love going in and assessing that and being like, here's what we can do. Here's how you can streamline. Here's the foundation we can lay. And here's how you go forth to scale more and grow more efficiently with less stress.
Small business owner, it's the stress of
Yes,
wearing a million
many,
hats.
many hats. It's so many things
Yeah.
going on and you don't have enough hands, right, to do all the things that need to be done. But
Yeah.
a well thought out, a well put together process structure and tech stack can really help you do a lot of things hands off, right?
Mhm.
And having that, and you don't have to spend a ton either, right? Because it feels like you need to have every single tool that is being talked about to do it, but you really only need a few things. And I'm big again on integration, right? So being able to utilize tools to their full capacity and then set
Mhm.
up, especially native integrations, and then adding if you have to do external integration, but make sure your tools are talking to each other, right? Because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where you can start taking your hands off of some things when you actually have each piece moving through the way that it does so that you don't have to pick
Mhm.
it up and move it from here to there every single time.
So that's interesting because you say that small businesses really only need a handful of tools
Mhm.
and without necessarily naming the
Platforms.
particular vendors or the
Yeah,
platforms.
yeah.
But what specific tools do you think are integral for every
Okay.
small business to have?
I think that you definitely have to start with a CRM, right? And
Hmm.
a lot of tools have a CRM built in, right? There are a lot of
Sure.
tools that do other things, sales, email marketing, media
Mm,
buying that have a CRM built in. Leverage
right.
one of those tools and
Hmm.
build out how you're collecting audience information. So people who visit your website, people who get your emails, people who go into your store, whatever it is, collect
Mm,
that audience information, build audience segments, build sequences to communicate with them based on triggers of how they interact with your brand, right? Once you build that brain, right, that collects information and also sends out information for you, then you can start connecting it to a couple other platforms. You can
right.
activate the sales pipeline functionalities within that same platform or add a sales platform. Media buying, you don't need to have one platform that handles all of your media buying for you. What you want to do is make sure that you have that CRM set up properly, that you can send information from that CRM to the media buying platform, and that
Okay.
information from the media buying platforms comes directly back to your CRM. And then I think it's important to have a project management tool. right? We, as small business owners, living in this world where we have to create lots of content, right? You have
Yes.
email, social, if you're doing paid media, display, it is imperative to house all of that information in place. And having a
Hmm.
project management platform can give you help organize the spaces that you use for your content storage. Again, that integration. I'm very, very specific, or I guess structured, very structured in the way that I do my content, right? It's scheduled for specific days. I have specific tools that I utilize for managing, creating content, right? And I have like only certain amounts of time that I allocate to doing that. And they have very specific steps that I run through using AI to help me to kind of speed up the actual creation and the execution of those things. It's my entire project management system so that I make time and have time for all the different things that I have to do as a small business
That makes a lot of sense. And I think a few founders that I've
owner.
spoken to,
Hmm.
early stage founders are like, oh,
Yeah,
I don't need a CRM.
yeah,
I don't need project management. I've got Excel. I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
very
You
quickly
know,
things are going to get
very
too much.
and that's
Very,
the thing. That's the thing. It's the idea of creating that foundation, right? Because you might not need it today, right?
yeah.
Maybe you are, driving $200,000 in revenue a year and you've got 15 customers and you're like, I can name them off the top of my head. And if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, what happens?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Get it out your
That's,
head. Get it out your head, right? And
yes.
or less dark, what if you want to take vacation? What if you want to take a
Yeah.
nap? Right?
Yeah.
Get it out your head. And then
Yeah.
two, when you are growing, you are scaling, you're putting forth effort to gain more
Mm,
customers. Why put that pressure on yourself, a spreadsheet, a notebook? Get that into a CRM. Get your
yeah.
15 customers now into a CRM and then set up the mechanism that every single
Mhm.
time a potential new customer comes up, their information gets saved in the CRM because that's all data that
Yeah.
you can leverage to grow your business. And then when you are at 200 customers, you're not running around going, oh my God, we have to set up something.
Yeah.
You already have it. It's already running. It's already doing the thing.
Yeah. I was speaking to a customer earlier today. Well, they're not a customer yet. Hopefully they will
Yeah.
be soon.
Right.
Who is still using Excel and he's
Yeah.
got 300 plus clients. I'm like, whoa, how do you do it?
One of my clients, we were having a conversation about invoicing, right? And they launched with this platform because it was less expensive. And they were like, same thing. We don't need all the bells and whistles right away. So let's just go with this. And I
Mm,
completely understand and agree with that logic, right?
yeah.
As long as you're keeping note of like, okay, once we get to like this point, we're going to need to shift to another platform that actually has the capability to handle the things that we're going to do.
Yes.
But we
Yeah.
we were having a conversation about their invoicing structure, and their platform doesn't have the capability to do
Mm,
invoicing the way that they want. So they were like, "Well, I'll just set up a spreadsheet," and I just was like, don't visibly cringe, don't visibly cringe."
that's so funny.
I was like, okay, yes, let's look at the base example of a spreadsheet, but also let's look at what options there are to add automation with that spreadsheet. Where does it
Yeah.
need to be housed?
Yeah.
Can we connect the platform
Mm,
to it so that it can pull the information in, even if you're
yeah.
not doing it right now, or push information out to the spreadsheet in an automatic way? So it's
Mhm.
like I like to meet clients where they are in their
Yeah.
business and what
Yeah.
they need, right? And
Agreed.
again,
Agreed.
we're not looking to just like spend money just to spend money or add a bunch of tools just to add tools or create
Yeah.
automation just because it's cool and we like to see things do stuff on their own.
No.
But we
No.
we do want to have a forward-looking approach to what we set up,
Yes.
right? Like, can this serve you today and a year
Yeah.
from now, right? Because it doesn't serve you to set something up right now, and in 3 months, it's
Mhm.
not going to be able to handle your capacity.
Yeah. No, that you make some excellent points. You mentioned when we spoke last time that often small businesses are kind of priced out of
Yeah.
strategic support, right, by the
Yeah.
big consulting
Mm-hmm.
firms.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask specifically about
Mm-hmm.
Digital X and how you are, I guess, fulfilling
How to
that
fill
gap
that.
for
Mm-hmm.
your
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah, it's definitely my price point, right? It's my price point. Looking at the solution that I provide starts with a full marketing ecosystem assessment, right? It's an audit of everything, and then it provides like a full roadmap of like, this is exactly where your gaps are. These are where you're seeing redundancies. This is what you could streamline. This is where you are leveraging something that has more capacity because those are key problems for smaller companies. And I know the
Yeah.
ecosystem that I'm going to be assessing or that any of my consultants are going to be assessing. It's going to be a smaller ecosystem than when you're dealing with an enterprise
Mhm.
client.
Yes.
That is, and therefore my price point meets them there, right? Because I've done consulting with larger companies and been on the client side working with tech consultants, marketing consultants,
Yeah.
and then working with agencies. And there's definitely a time and a place within a company's strategy that bringing on an agency makes sense or bringing on a tech consultancy, engineering firm
Mhm.
makes sense. But we're talking like legal fees, you know, hundreds
Mhm.
of dollars an hour, right?
Yeah.
Or you have an agency and you're getting a full team, even if they're not 100% dedicated to your account. But
Mhm.
you're paying for the managing partner in the agency. You're paying for the VP, the senior account executive. The
Mhm.
you're paying for the salespeople. You're paying for the people who are actually doing the work to execute on your
Yeah.
campaigns. You're paying a lot of
Right.
salaries when you're doing that, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I try to keep my services very streamlined, right? Digital X Media is not bringing six people to, a bunch of meetings with my
Mhm.
clients so that they can feel like there's a lot of work being done. We're
Yeah.
actually just in it, going in,
Mhm.
assessing their system, and providing them with exactly what they need to do in simplified terms and at a scale that fits how their business is operating today and how they want to grow.
Nice. I really, really like that. Because like I say, you're really catering for those
Mhm.
businesses that really need
Yeah,
these
this
strategic
is where you need
services,
the
but
direction. Yeah,
yeah, but they just
yeah,
can't afford it. So I think
right.
that's great.
And then
Yeah.
once you become a company that is, generating millions and millions of dollars a year, and you have 100 employees, and you have six different departments and multiple, well, it's hard to then move back and consolidate things. You have
Mm,
departments that are fighting over budget, all the bureaucracy that goes into enterprise. And it makes it really hard then to make
yeah.
decisions around, hey, this is how we're going to leverage these specific tools. It's hard to kind of get that consensus once you get to that point, right? Which is why, again, big shifts move so slowly because when you're making a change within a large company, the ripple effect impacts so many different things that people are doing. It's hard to say, yes, let's go ahead and make that change, right?
Yeah.
Now, to me, when you're making, $300,000, $500,000 a year, and you're like, hey, I'm in a good place. I can spend the money on really creating the structure that is going to carry my business into the future. That's the time to do
Mm,
it, right? Because that's when things
nice.
are still flexible and
Yeah.
you still can make those decisions without worrying that something's going to fall apart or fall off if you make a change.
That makes so much sense. I
Hmm.
wanted to we touched on AI, but I want to
Hmm.
dig a bit deeper
Yeah,
there.
gotta.
So you said you're using it for your own business, Marvelism for content, I believe,
Yes,
and you've gone deep on defining brand tone and voice before you let AI
touch anything.
anywhere near your
Yes,
output, which I really respect and love.
yeah.
Why do you think most people skip that step, and what difference does it actually make?
I think that's super
Mhm.
important, and I hear it. repeated and resonated every time I attend like a conference or a webinar sessions or anything around like leveraging AI. Most of us have with AI that AI will just do it. Like you can see articles about like and this AI business that'll generate millions in revenue, and I'm just like AI does nothing, right? Except what you tell it to do with the information that
Yeah.
you've given it to do, right? And I think we're just human nature, just so hopeful of the capacity and the
Mm.
capability of AI that
Yeah.
we don't realize that what AI does is kind of give us access to be like layman programmers, right? We
Yeah.
have the ability to program this tool that understands language models, that understands code, that can bridge that gap
Yeah.
for us so that we can develop and create things without having to know
Mm.
coding ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. That's
really
incredible.
important that we use all of our words, right, to tell the AI what they're supposed to be coding and creating, right? So that I hear it all the time. Those initial steps of really building out your prompts, really building out the information that you feed it, those that step gets skipped. I was in a session the other day that was talking about using AI for content, and they were saying that people will go into AI and say, "Build me a website for a flower shop," right? And that's not the first prompt, right? The first
No.
prompt, if you kind of want to be like, I need to build a website with however many pages, whatever. Understand the capabilities, right? Find out
Yeah.
exactly what it can do and what it needs to know in
Yeah.
order to do that, right? And
Yeah.
then you can go in and be like, okay, great. I want you to do all those things. Now you kind of have like an outline. Okay, so you said that you can build a page, but you need all the branding information. Here's my logo. Here are
Mhm.
my colors. Here's our font. Here's our tone. And then have the AI repeat back to you what it was told and ask it. When I first started working with AI, one a developer once told me every time I give the AI a request, that I should end the request with ask me questions until you have 100% clarity. And I still
Mm.
do that today, right? Communication, right? What I'm saying and what you're hearing can always be two different things. And we
Right.
shouldn't assume because AI is artificial intelligence that it can understand our intention any
No.
more than another human being. Once we've given it a prompt, we should always ask it to clarify, right? And make
Yeah.
sure that what it is planning to do and what it understands to do and what it has translated is exactly what you're looking for. Usually within that, you clean up your prompt to make it more specific to what you're actually looking for. And then you do that, and then next thing you know, you have a beautiful Photoshop website, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there is that conversation and training that has to go and in the prompt. It's not just one step, it's multiple.
Yeah, I couldn't put it better myself. There is that conversation that needs to be set up. If you were to do it the traditional way and
Yeah,
send it to developers, you
yeah,
need to
still need.
outline the specification in terms of
Hmm.
what you need. You
Hmm.
need to do that same process with AI,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I think sometimes everyone's expectations of AI are, that it is superhuman, and
Yeah,
it is not quite superhuman
right,
yet.
right.
Thankfully, us
Thankfully.
humans are all very much needed. Yay! And hopefully that remains the
This is the
case for
thing.
a very, very long time. Um,
I just think that's an important point too, is that there all of this kind of like panic and fear, and I get it. There are people that are seeing a change in their roles and responsibilities
mm,
and the value of their position because AI can move this piece of information from one platform to another. But the true value that AI cannot replace right now is that someone needs to be there to instruct the AI on where to move something, what format to move it in, what to do with it once it's moved, what happens next after it's been put in the new place. And there's just a whole
yeah.
world of human interaction and human management and human engineering with AI that is opening up for us that's taking the
Mm,
place of AI being able to do these very menial tasks on their own, that I just think there's more opportunity than there is loss with the growth of AI. As long as it doesn't turn into Skynet. But I'm very, very nice to my AI. Mine has the name. I always ask her how she's doing because I want once they become sentient, I want them to remember how good I was.
How nice and how polite you
And
are,
how polite,
indeed.
right? Please and thank yous always. I was raised right. Please and thank you.
It goes very, very far. I have to admit, I haven't asked my AI how they are. I do always say thank you, however. I wanted to ask you about sort of something you said again in our pre-chat, in
Hmm.
that just because you're a founder, it doesn't mean that you have to work yourself to
Yeah,
to the ground.
yeah.
How did you arrive at that mindset, and what does sustainable entrepreneurship actually look like for you today?
Yes. Okay. How I arrived at that mindset, burnout multiple times, repeatedly. Agency side is no joke. Where even working within a marketing performance team, execution team, leading that team in a brand, you still have the brand culture, and the only focus for everyone is this one brand, right? You know, Home Depot and Intercontinental Hotels Group, they have multiple brands within the brands, but still you're
Right.
focused on your brand, right? When
Yes.
you're on agency side, you have multiple clients. I've worked in agencies where I've had a portfolio of 4 clients that I had to focus on, and I've had a portfolio of 80 clients that I had to focus on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
managing multiple campaigns and multiple platforms for multiple clients, right? And the quality of support, again, agencies show up and they have all the people on the team and they're like, oh, we're here for you whenever you need us, morning, noon, or night. And they're telling that to every single client, right? It leads to
Right.
burnout really quickly. Agency life has a very high turnover. Um, so after experiencing burnout multiple times in my, again, 30-long career,
Mm-hmm.
I finally realized I have those personality traits, and anything
Yeah.
that I do, I'm 110% doing it, right? And that I realized wasn't sustainable, right? Because I kept getting to these points of burnout because I'm in environments that have lots for me to do and take on. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking that all on and trying to do that all. And when I started consulting and freelancing and then launched my first business, I realized I took that same mindset into my own stuff. I'm 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I'm up and I'm working on stuff. I'm building proposals. I'm editing my website. I'm just all of the things. There's never a
Yeah.
point where you're like, oh, I wonder
I think,
what could be done. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm really twiddling my thumbs now. What can I work on? Yeah, yeah. Oh, I hear you, Sanarr. I hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
And even in my personal, outside of work, I've gone through seasons of just becoming more grounded, becoming more self-aware, opening myself up to more mindfulness practices. I meditate, I journal, I do yoga. I'm just very big on having this whole holistic balance around my mental and physical health these days, right?
Great.
So that in turn helps me to
Mm-hmm.
realize, even with my own business, that has to be true. I have to have boundaries. I have to have balance, right? The only thing that I am in this existence on this earth is not an entrepreneur or a business owner, right? I'm a
Yeah.
daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things. I have to have balance and space for all
Yeah.
of that, right? Doesn't mean that everything gets to have the utmost priority. I still prioritize things, but I also find, again, peace and space to say it's okay to let that wait until
Mm,
tomorrow. So I can get on a call with you at any time that you want to get on a call. There's a time that'll work for me. There's a time that'll work for
yeah.
you, and we'll
Yeah.
find that time, and
Exactly.
it'll be okay, right? It doesn't.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We live in a
Absolutely.
world too where it's like text messages, notifications from all our apps coming onto our
Yeah.
phone, our email, our Slack pinging, like all of these things, and it
Yeah.
gives us the false sense of a need to immediately respond. right?
Exactly. It really does. And you don't ever have to switch off. You literally don't ever. I think you've set boundaries for
Yeah,
yourself in terms of
yeah.
what you will do and what you won't do. And I really respect that.
And that's one thing that I would share and say with small business owner, founder,
Mm,
large business owner, everybody. It doesn't mean that you're not on top of it or you're missing an opportunity, right?
mm.
Whatever's for you cannot pass you by. It doesn't mean that you're missing an opportunity. But
So
just
true.
because that thing is coming to you at 2 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean you
Mhm.
have to respond to it at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
right? And this is coming from, I'm a night owl. It's not because I'm asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, but that's time for rest. That's time for decompression. That is time to let my brain and body recalibrate in preparation to give 110% of myself
Next
tomorrow.
day.
Right.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think that's really important to know is that you've got to give yourself the self-care in
Yeah.
order to be able to perform 110% for your customers. So I think
Yeah.
that's great advice. I can't believe we are almost coming to the end.
I
It's like,
know, I know, I know. It's so easy. It's so easy to talk to you. I told you that game the first
oh,
time. Just
we
very, very genuine, very authentic. I love what you're doing with this podcast, Entrepreneur
thank
Odyssey.
you.
I think it is so important. So that's another thing I love about the small business community is we are so hyper focused on like connecting with others within our system and just
Yeah.
every piece of support and information and connection that we can create. And you're just creating such a beautiful one here. So
Thank
I love it.
you. I really appreciate that. And I you know what? I genuinely love having
Yeah.
conversations with the extremely talented people that I've been
Yeah.
blessed to have on my show so far. And so
Okay.
thank you for coming on.
Mhm.
Before you go though,
Yes.
I do want to ask you a couple of things. So
Yes.
one,
Hmm.
what MarTech tool
Hmm.
would you never give up?
Okay. So
And you can name brands, by the way. We're not,
yeah.
that.
So I love Google Workspace. I love Google products.
Okay.
And because it's more than a MarTech tool because you have Google that you can actually search YouTube, your media buying and
Mm,
that, right? So marketing technology, yeah. They also have Google Tag Manager where you can manage all of your tracking tools in it. They have Google Data Studio that you can use to do dashboards for your reporting. Everything is linked within your Google Workspace. So all of your email, it seems like such an obvious, oh, Google, that's not a secret tool, right? But so much of what they offer is free to use too to small business owner.
yeah.
And then the cost, if you're once you're doing paid workspaces, the cost is so minimal cost. It's something that can work within the budget of any small to medium business, right? And it has so many different tools that integrate with each other. It's like
Yeah.
an easy yes. The only tool that I do not use for business from Google is Gemini. I use Gemini for personal stuff,
Interesting.
but I
Interesting.
find Chat GPT strategy mind and like creative thinking processes
Mm,
much more advanced than Gemini. So
interesting.
I generally
Okay.
call Gemini is my boyfriend because men, right? Okay. But
It
there are things
works
that
with
you can
things.
integrate. Yeah, you can integrate chat with some of the Google tools.
Okay, great advice. And now you'll make me think, gosh, I've got a Google Workspace. Am I even using a quarter of the functionality? I need to go
Right.
back and check.
There's so
I need to
much
go
stuff.
do that.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody would like to ask me questions about how you can leverage a Google platform, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about that at length.
Well, why don't you let everybody know how they can reach you and let everybody know how they can contact you regarding Digital X Media services?
Yes, absolutely. So visit digitalxmedia.co just to see all of the solutions that we provide and how we can help small businesses with their marketing technology stack. And then I can be reached at Sanarr at digitalxmedia.co. Shoot me an email. I'm happy to respond and, like I said, chat about technology tools. It's my favorite thing. And you can also check me out on LinkedIn. I post like video tips and stuff like that as well for small business owners. So follow me and get that information as well.
Amazing. And I really recommend that you follow Sanarr because you've got so many great tips to share. And I've really, really loved our conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Tejneet. I loved it too. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I love what you're building at Digital X Media. The idea that small businesses deserve the same quality of strategic thinking as the enterprise without the enterprise price tag. Really, if anyone listening wants to find out more, as Sanarr just mentioned, please do head to digitalxmedia.co. And if today's episode gave you something to think about, whether it's your own tech stack, your automation wish list, or just a reminder that you don't have to do it all manually, do get in touch with Sanarr, but also get in touch with us here at aiefficacy.com. Leave a comment, share the episode, and do subscribe to the Entrepreneur Odyssey. We love having you listen and comment. And until next time, keep building.